Hi, this is Dr. Peter Grinspoon. Thank you so much for listening to my YouTube channel. Today we're going to talk about the need to decriminalize opiates and how the criminalization, the drug war aspects of opiates is what's actually causing most of our opiate overdoses from fentanyl. Before we get started, there's a button on the lower right of your screen where you could, for free, join my YouTube channel, and we have tons of other videos about drug and addiction related topic. Okay, so now for today, why do we need to decriminalize opiates? First of all, let's look at cannabis. Cannabis used to be illegal. It used to be more dangerous to buy. 20 million people got arrested over the last 50 years for nonviolent cannabis possession, which is a disaster. When you get arrested, it affects your housing, your employment, your education, and whatever you bought. Many of us remember buying the stems and the seeds in high school. It just wasn't good quality. When you buy drugs illegally, there are no recalls, there's no regulation, there's no quality control. And now that we can buy cannabis legally, people know what they're getting. It's regulated, it's labeled, it's free of contaminants, pesticides. There are many, many fewer arrests for cannabis use, which there shouldn't be. Why would you make something illegal which people use anyways? And now that it's legal, people can talk about it with their doctor more comfortably if they're having any problems. In general, legalizing drugs makes the supply safer. It generates tax revenue for the state. In Massachusetts last year, we raised many more taxes, something like 70 million from cannabis than we did even from the entire alcohol industry. That was like $50 million. So we raised tax money, and if you feel like you're getting addicted or having trouble or using more and more, it's easier to talk to your doctor. So in general, decriminalizing drugs is a way to make drug use safer. And again, I'm not a big believer in criminalizing things that do anyways. Nobody is saying we should, or nobody credible is saying we should recriminalize cannabis. It's been a success in the 24 states where cannabis is legal and the 38 states where medical cannabis is legal. Now, with opiates, granted, it's not an exact analogy because opiates are more dangerous than cannabis. Opiates can cause constipation, falls, dizziness. I mean, cannabis, of course, has its harms too, which is the source of another one of my blogs and another one of my videos. Opiates can cause overdoses. So opiates are definitely more dangerous than cannabis. Nobody dies from a cannabis addiction. More people get addicted to opiates than to cannabis. But again, cannabis is not without its harms. Opiates are dangerous. But the people who are overdosing, and I have to say there are tens of millions of people who are struggling right now with opiate addiction, and we just don't have the health infrastructure to get care to them, all the people that need it. We have very good treatments for opiate addiction. Suboxone, methadone, these medications cause a 50 to 80% lowering in overdose risk. But we only about 15 to 20% of people with opiate addiction, again, tens of millions of people in this country, get this treatment because of our fraying health system. We lose tens of thousands of people to opiate overdoses every single year. Literally, there are like 70 to 80,000 people that die of opiate overdoses, and about 100,000 people a year just in the United States die of drug overdoses, most of which have opiates, and a lot of them now have amphetamines. Who is dying? People are not dying from taking legal opiates. They can get addicted. Now, a doctor gives you too much Percocet after your knee replacement. Sure, you can get addicted to prescription opiates, but nobody's dying from prescription opiates. There are very few people. The reason people are overdosing is because they're buying illegal drugs. Instead of getting a Percocet from your doctor and it has 5 milligrams of oxycodone, they're buying these pressed pills on the streets that are mostly contaminated with fentanyl. Or they're just getting addicted to, it used to be heroin, now it's fentanyl, which is cheaper and easier to find on the streets. So we have all these people in this country with chronic pain and with opiate addiction. Again, 50 million people have chronic pain. Tens of millions of people are addicted to opiates. And now that they're having a hard time from their doctors getting the opiates that they feel that they need, again, if you're addicted to opiates, you're going to use opiates. I know that. I'm 20 years in recovery from opiate addiction, but believe me, whether or not opiates are legal or illegal does not deter anybody from using opiates. People with chronic pain and with addiction are buying opiates on the street. The opiates in the street are a disaster. Again, not just the pressed pills. Fentanyl has contaminated everything. You buy a Xanax on the street, a sedative, and it has fentanyl in it. You buy cocaine on the street, and I know people have overdosed on cocaine. The whole street drug supply is contaminated with fentanyl. And when you're addicted to opiates, or sadly you buy some opiates for chronic pain because you can't get them for your doctor, it doesn't just have fentanyl. This street fentanyl has like 15 different drugs in it. Many are contaminants. Nitazines, xylazine in it, which causes these open, gaping wounds. Now, my theory is that if people had a safe, accessible path to obtain their opiates, people who are desperate with chronic pain, with addiction, they would be much less likely to buy the opiates on the streets. And again, what's killing people is the illegal opiates. So my suggestion is that we have something like government-run stores where you can get opiates if you have a, say, for example, you have a note from your doctor saying you have addiction or you have chronic pain, and then people can go in, get opiates, sort of like you can in a cannabis dispensary, and know exactly what you're getting, what the dose is, and know that it's not contaminated with fentanyl, which is killing so many people. Now, my suggestion for opiate decriminalization would be different from cannabis legalization. You can't have the current free-for-all we have with cannabis where anybody can buy it for recreational uses. Now, I think that should be legal because in the scheme of drugs, cannabis isn't that dangerous, though again it has many harms. It's certainly not as dangerous as opiates. So we would want to have medicinal opiates, like we have medicinal cannabis. We would not want to have recreational opiates, because opiates are not a recreational drug. They're extremely addictive. We just want to give people, the tens of millions of people that need them, opiates so that they don't buy them on the streets and overdose. Just of note, a lot of people are using the natural herb kratom that you can buy in smoke shops or on the internet, which is an herb from Southeast Asia, which helps with chronic pain and which helps with opiate addiction. Some people in the government are looking to ban it. I don't think banning it is a good idea, and I have a whole another blog and YouTube video on kratom. But anyways, ideally people can get a safe, legal supply of opiates. In these government-run stores or state-run stores, you could also link the purchase of opiates to education and to treatment. Now, speaking of treatment, to get over an addiction, and I know this from personal experience and from helping dozens of doctors and thousands of patients over the years. I work in the addiction clinic in MGH, and I've worked as a primary care doctor for 25 years. Believe me, we treat tons of opiate addiction. To get out of opiate addiction, it's not just a question of not taking the drugs. We help people not take the drugs, as I mentioned before, with methadone and Suboxone, these medications that we transition. Some people criticize this as they're still on an opiate. Well, it's like, yeah, they're still on an opiate, but we're prescribing it, it's safe, and we're monitoring them, and no one's going to overdose and die. This is called harm reduction. So in addition to getting people to stop taking the drugs, fentanyl, that they overdose on, we also need to give people a pathway out of addiction. If people have health care, if they have educational opportunities, really important. If they have housing, they're not going to be living in these tent drug cities in the streets. They're going to be living, working, getting education like the rest of us. So a large part of addiction treatment is, more broadly speaking, getting people the medical needs that they have to get met so that they can stop taking the actual drugs that are killing them, but also getting them housing and education, and they of course need health care. All of this stems from the war on drugs, which we've been fighting for the last 70 years, which has been a disaster. The war on drugs thinks you could stop drug use by trying to eradicate the supply. But it's so easy to manufacture fentanyl, and there are so many different sources of the supply. You arrest one, 10 others grow up. We're never going to solve the opiate addiction or any drug crisis by law enforcement. We have to do, instead of supply side, what's called demand side. We have to treat people, we have to educate people, and we have to give people a sensible way out of addiction. Again, this is harm reduction. It's not a perfect solution, but for something as deadly and messy as addiction, this is the best we can do. So I strongly advocate decriminalizing opiates. in the careful way that I've mentioned above. And I also believe in decriminalizing other drugs as well. Again, law enforcement is not the right solution to drug use. When someone is having a problem, you don't want them to be arrested. You want them to be treated by doctors, nurses, healthcare workers, and social workers. So I'm advocating for another step in dismantling the war on drugs, which we've already lost, which is decriminalizing opiates for medicinal use. Thank you so much for listening. This is Dr. Peter Grinspoon. Thanks for listening to my YouTube channel.